When you find a hive of honeybees, what are you thinking? I'm sure many of you are thinking, well, I'm just going to back away slowly, unless, of course, you're super brave or a beekeeper. However, after you run away, I would like you to think of something else. A strict and explicit social hierarchy formed to slave away at the expense of a bee who can't even digest her own food. This morning, I'm going to be talking to all of you about the life of the queen bee. First, I will be speaking on how she is chosen. Then I will talk about her role in the hive, and finally, I will share what the end of her reign looks like. Firstly, I would like to speak to all of you about how the queen bee is chosen, and the substance, which may or may not have a gigantic role in what makes the queen the queen. To begin, I would like to explain that when eggs are laid, a future queen is actually no different than her worker bee sisters, as far as we can tell. However, somewhere along the line, a queen produces a working reproductive system and pheromones essential for the functioning of the hive. Christina Grosinger, a distinguished professor of entomology, explains in a 2020 article for Penn State that all fertilized eggs have the potential to become a queen or a worker. These are female bees, while unfertilized eggs become drones or male bees. This explains that there are 3 strict sections of the bee hierarchy. These are the position of queen bee, the group of worker bees, and the group of drone bees. Each bee in the hive does their duty to support the hive and the queen. Essentially, Professor Grosinger highlights that all fertilized eggs could become a queen if the hive is in need of one, as long as it is treated within the first 3 days after hatching from the egg. The queen bee is the only bee in the hive actually capable of reproduction, and scientists have debated over what exactly creates a queen and allows for her to become the mother of generations. The 2 theories hinge on the substances which the future queens are or aren't fed. This first substance I would like to focus on is called royal jelly. This substance is explained to be a mixture of water, proteins, sugars, and hormones which worker bees produce. All larvae are fed royal jelly for the first 3 days of their lives. The queen, though, continues to develop in royal jelly and consumes the substance for the rest of her life. Scientists have then theorized that this substance is actually what leads to the development of her reproductive organs and overall size. The second substance I'd like to focus on is what the worker bees are fed. Worker bees survive on a diet of bee bread, which is pretty much fermented pollen, and honey. This diet does plenty to sustain them, but the queen never ever eats it. Dr. May Barenboim conducted a study that was recorded in Wired in 2015 on what exactly bee larvae eat. She discovered an acid in worker bees' diet which actually resulted in smaller ovaries when ingested. The lack of this acid would then lead to functioning ovaries, pretty much creating a queen. While there is debate on how she is created, in the end we still have a queen, and this queen has a job just like everyone else in the colony. The queen has 2 main responsibilities in the hive. While this is not a large amount when compared to everything the worker bees do, her work is absolutely essential to the survival of the hive. As the only female bee capable of reproduction, the first of her responsibilities is to produce a whole generation of bees each year. The queen participates in a mating flight not very long after her development. This is the only mating flight she will participate in during the course of her life. She mates with multiple different drone bees, which helps to create genetic diversity. This part is so important because this genetic diversity is what keeps the hive protected from serious diseases. Rather unfortunately for the drones, though, they don't live through this mating process. After this flight, the queen flies back to the hive to lay eggs. In the course of her productive lifespan, she will lay up to 3,000 eggs in a single day during spring and summer. The second responsibility of the queen is to produce pheromones to communicate with the colony. The queen produces pheromones from glands in her body. The most important of these glands is the mandibular gland, from which she releases 5 important chemicals. These chemicals help her to inform the hive on how healthy she is and how productive she is. They also help keep social order in the hive and make sure the colony continues to stick together. The queen performs many crucial tasks throughout her life, but eventually she can no longer perform these tasks. I will now explain how, and more importantly, why the queen's short life ends. About 2 to 3 years after her birth, she will begin to slow down in both egg-laying and pheromone production. The queen's egg-laying productivity doesn't last very long, as it is quite a bit of work to lay 3,000 eggs in a single day. After about 2 years, 3 at the very most, a queen begins to slow down. After these short years, the queen's pheromones also begin to decrease. She begins to release less pheromones, and the ones she does release inform the hive that her productivity is decreasing. Altogether, these signs point the hive in a very significant direction. It is time for the worker bees to come to a decision. The queen has never truly ruled the hive. The real rulers of the hive are the worker bees. This is not a monarchy, but a republic. When decisions must be made, it is these bees who make the tough choices. The queen is just a puppet. When the queen's productivity decreases, the worker bees confer and decide what must be done. Usually, they decide that it is the end of the queen. A worker bee then gives her life to end the queen's life. Then it starts all over again. Larva cells are filled with royal jelly, and a new queen will emerge again. In conclusion, the queen is an important figurehead among the bees. She is their life giver, and she manages to keep them all unified. But we must remember that she is not the one who holds the power. Her life and death belongs to the worker bees. There is so much we still don't know about the honeybees. As in the words of Dr. Barenboim, it all happens in the dark, surrounded by 50,000 stingers. I hope this information helped you learn a bit more about the friendly insects who give us so much joy through their delicious honey.